This is Laura DeFranco, holistic physical therapist and owner of Brave Healer Productions. I'm excited to bring you my new holistic healing series where you're going to learn from the experts what it means to live fiercely alive, mind, body, and soul. I invite you now to take a breath, relax, and feel the vibe of the words my guest has to share with you today. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Today, we have a very special episode for you, some collaborative badassery from 4 of the expert authors of The Ultimate Guide to Self-Healing, Volume 4. Oh my gosh, you guys, I woke up one day, March of 2020, from a dream about helping the world heal at home with real, powerful, practical tools that you can practice from the pages of these books. And when Volume 1 was born, I did not realize we would be sitting here almost a year later talking to you about Volume 4. The journey has been incredible, and I'm very, very honored to be sharing the stories and the messages of these world-changing business owners here in front of you. And I will first say thank you all so much for saying yes to this project and for stepping up in the way that you did to share your authentic stories. And really, you're all master teachers. So teaching those tools in that beautiful way. Yes. So viewers, let me introduce to you some of the authors of The Ultimate Guide. Hi, you guys. Thanks for being here. So I have James Kawainui. He wrote chapter 14, The Power of Energetic Boundaries, Creating a Personal Sanctuary from the World. James is a native Hawaiian healer, trusted guide, mentor, and an expert in clearing blockages from trauma, injury, and illness. Freedom, hope, and serenity is what you will feel. James's life is devoted to helping people live positive, productive, pain-free lives. I have Veronica B. Light with me. She wrote chapter 22, Wealth Consciousness, Practicing Presence in Your Money Story. Veronica is an international best-selling author with over a decade of experience as a transformation coach and holistic practitioner, specializing in supporting conscious, ambitious women to awaken personal power and self-actualize their life purpose. Hemali Vora wrote chapter 20, Legacy Work, Living Life with Intention and Purpose. She is an expert holistic practitioner, intuitive energy healer, and spiritual mentor. Her mission is to empower healthcare workers and caregivers towards radical self-care, unconditional self-love, and reclaiming their power. She guides them to their unique legacy blueprint by tapping into their inner wisdom and living an aware life. And lastly, Dr. L. Provencher, I like to say it in the French way. I hope that's okay. She wrote chapter 7, Nutritional Detox. Stop feeling sick and tired of being sick and tired. She is a board certified doctor of natural medicine and a board certified doctor of traditional naturopathy. I hope I'm getting that word right. She is a bariatric and holistic nutritionist, an advanced energy practitioner, and a certified hypnotist. She's also a national wellness speaker and an author. Holy crap, you guys. If you don't realize the power of the healers I have in this room right now, I don't know what is going to help you. So, of course, their websites are hooked up in the show notes for you. And we're about to have an amazing conversation about healing. So, James, you are up to this party first, and I would love for you to share a little bit about your story and about this amazing chapter that you wrote.
Gosh, my story, as quick as I can talk about it. 20 years ago, I was a corporate executive, had an awakening, walked away from that. In the 20 years, I've realized that I have a lineage because I come from Hawaii that goes back over 20 generations. And I've also learned that my ancestors speak through me. And so I work with people from that level. The chapter that I wrote is about energetic boundaries. One of the things that's happened is that people who are other practitioners show up at my doorstep, and they're the majority of my practice still 20 years later. And I recognized that one of the things that we didn't do is we didn't understand how the effects of other people's energy around us affect us every day on a daily basis. And so the chapter is about understanding that, and then having a tool, which I call my crystal egg, that helps people create a buffer zone, as like a barrier space between myself, my energy, and the energy of the people and the places around us.
So I'm going to just ask you, why is that so important?
It's important because other people's energies impact us on a daily basis. And all we have to do is look at the last year and everything that was happening in our political climate, everything that was happening around COVID. And we realize that the collective, because we're all connected and everybody understands that, but they don't realize how deep the connection goes and where we are. And so it's that going, and this is the easiest way for me to explain it, if I'm bopping along in my day and I'm doing fine, right? And then all of a sudden my mood or my energy changes, most people don't go the next step and say, wow, what happened? Something just changed. Is that me? And that's when we start to realize that the impact that we have. And then we look at it from a generational standpoint and how we were raised and what we were taught. And the reality is that most people grow up without even an understanding of what kind of to create boundaries for themselves, not just energetically, but in their lives and in the way that they have interactions with people and have relationships.
That's the way that I love hearing you talk about it is, and it's just an awareness. Like you all essentially are teaching different kinds of awareness tools. And that's why it's so important to bring so many voices together for these books, right? I love the way that you say, well, you could be going on in your great day, and then all of a sudden, boom, you are just cranky. And maybe you just feel cranky and you're reacting it requires you to pause, right? I want you to just talk a little bit more about that awareness moment.
Not only an awareness moment, but there's also this, and this is what I tell people, and this is maybe the easiest way. Every time I react to something outside of me, some situation, some person, or anything else, I'm actually giving my energy to that thing or that person, right? And so if I can see that and understand that and stay contained inside myself and look at everything that's around me in some ways as information of how I respond, it completely changes the game, because then it takes my emotion out of what's happening. And you don't become emotionally detached from people, but what you start to do is realize where people are in their lives and what's happening for them, and how I either take in or not take in that energy, right? We never even get to the point of going, wow, should I even take in that anger or that sadness or whatever it is you're feeling? No, it just comes in and just becomes part of us, and it's us, right? And this is that space of recognizing that and going, wait a minute, wow, you're really angry today. Do I really need to do this with you? No, I'm not going to do this with you. So I'm going to let you have your anger. I'm going to let you have your pain. And I'm just going to be here for you, right? So it's a different way of being. I tell people almost all of our relationships are based on pain in some ways. And we don't have time to go into all of that today, but if we look at it from that standpoint, then it becomes a place where we can be neutral. Not detached, not unfeeling, but neutral.
Yes. And you're so right. We could write 10 volumes on boundaries alone, right? And a whole interview just for boundaries. It's so important. Wait, I think you and I did that one day, didn't we? Viewers, you want more about this? You're going to have to go find that interview. Yes. Awesome, James. Super foundational and very powerful and important stuff there. So I'm going to move to you, Veronica, and ask you the same thing. Talk to us about your story and about this amazing chapter that you wrote.
Well, my name is Veronica, and the chapter I wrote was on wealth consciousness. I was really called to share this story because of all that uncertainty and the fear that's surrounding money and the future these days. I really love what James was speaking into as far as boundaries. And what I heard him saying was a lot about what I speak into is being consciously present to yourself, to your energy, to how you're feeling, your emotions, and to really have discernment on what beliefs are yours and what beliefs are not yours, because that will determine whether or not you're actually accepting them into your personal space and your consciousness. So my story is a lot about the fears and the limiting beliefs that I used to have about money and wealth and my place in the world. I used to, I was an entrepreneur. I've always been an entrepreneur. But back then I used to have a business that was not in alignment with my purpose. And I had a lot of fear of stepping into something, the unknown, a lot of fear surrounding, what if, it isn't, what if I can't do this, the not enoughness, all that stuff. And I found a lot of healing through practicing presence and staying within myself and going within and shifting those limiting beliefs. And it opened up a new world for me. It opened up a world of trust and faith, not only in myself, but in life and being in the flow of life and knowing that the purpose that you have in this world is already being supported. It's already yours. You're meant to do this and you're meant to move forward with it wholeheartedly without having to worry about anything, especially money, especially, any kind of support from people that you may not, have support from today. They can show up somewhere else in other different ways, like being open to that, the energy of the flow of trust and faith that all that you require will be provided for you.
I love that. You said a question earlier that kind of pulling off of what James was saying, and you had mentioned it too, but the one powerful question for in that moment of presence is this mine? Mm-hmm. And I mean, what a simple 3-word question, that sheds awareness on that. And that, listen, we hear this all day long, go inward, go inward, go inward. And I'm always after helping people understand really what that means in a way that's very, very simple. So Veronica, like if you had to tell someone like right now, this moment, as they're listening, they click off the video and they're going to go practice. Just what's one easy thing that they can do to make that happen?
I would say the one thing is to be willing to surrender. Be willing to surrender and open your mind and your heart.
Yeah,
something deeper.
And not an easy thing to do a lot of the time because of the amount of fear that surrounds a surrender, right? And I don't know, you're making me want to say that surrender doesn't mean you're giving up. It's more of a letting go, right?
Letting go. Perfect. Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Veronica. So Hemali, I'm going to move to you and ask you a little bit about your story now in this amazing chapter that you wrote called Legacy Work.
Thank you. Well, my story with, I talk about death and I had these questions. My dad passed away 11 years ago. And even before that, I've had this thing I would always say, and I didn't know what it meant, was there's something about death and me. And why I would say it, I don't know. I would feel this pull towards learning more about death and everything, like what happens around death. Looking at a week before somebody dies or a few days before somebody dies, the things that they say and how is it like, do the souls know that they're going to pass away? But anyway, after my dad passed away, I started looking more into, I had the whole existential crisis, like, why am I here? What is going on? And moving forward, it's like when I saw the impact that he had in people's lives around him, it kind of took me on a journey where, what is my impact on life? What am I bringing to this life? And knowing that everybody in my dad's side passed away in their late 50s or early 60s. And so me being in my 30s, I was like, I have probably 20, if I have 20 to 30 years to live, that's really short time, you know? So I want to make as much as I can of my life, because I wasted so much so far. I was like 37 or something. And so I really wanted to see what that was. And so that's what led me to seeing that. And then, you know, I'm a Reiki master teacher. And so I teach, but at the same time, I've helped many people or friends and clients with when someone in their lives have passed away, or the trauma that brings, or the void that it leaves. I've been very observant. And then all that led me to this end-of-life doula course that I certified in from University of Vermont, where I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I just have too many things on my plate already, and how I was going to weave that in. But during that time, I realized that even as a young kid, when my uncle passed away, I was like 9 years or 10 years old, where I had an out-of-body experience where I was almost, my soul was moving from room to room, observing how people grieve and the things that they talk about, and what they talk about, the person that died, or the shift in the relationships, the fights or the struggles that happens after that, to take that place of the motherly figure or the fatherly figure, and what that happens. And so I had been very observant about that. And so I think even my grief, I didn't start grieving until 6 years after my dad passed away. Like, I couldn't even look at his picture, and I couldn't even have his picture because I had one frame with his picture on, and even that fell off. It was like in behind all the stuff on the ledge, and that's the one fell off. And so it was just weird how things that happen. So I feel that legacy work is very important, and especially when learning about end-of-life doula, how the dignity therapy, that's what they call it, for the terminally ill patients, that gives them a little bit more comfort to know that you're not leaving this space. Like, people are still going to love you and care for you. And then you can leave a little bit of your voice message, or your story, a letter to the loved ones that are left behind. And even a smile that you share with other person, just space or presence, that helps you move. I guess that gives them comfort. So I felt that that was very important.
Yes, definitely. Oh my goodness. I'm just listening to you and thinking of the way that you must have felt through all of those moments. And this is such important work. It also takes a pretty motivated and aware person already to have some of the thoughts that you had and to pursue, right? You have to be a little bit paying attention a little bit already to be pulled in directions. And for all of you, even just to be the seekers that you are. A special breed of warrior is how I consider all of you in the healing world, right? You're all amazing like that. Dr. L, let's hear a little bit about your story and this beautiful nutritional detox chapter that you wrote.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me, and what wonderful compadres I have here. I feel you through this, so thank you so much for all your words. I'm like, yep, I agree. So this time I actually wrote, this is my second chapter that I've written for, I wrote in volume 3 and now in volume 4. And this one I took more of a, let's come down to the real person and see what's going on. And what I wrote on this nutritional detoxification really focuses on Candida. And Candida is the overabundance of yeast in the tissue. And a lot of people have it. Probably about 80% of the population has it. And it's usually the beginning of all the problems in the body. So just like James was talking, you're talking about pain. Well, it's inflammation, right? Think about pain as inflammation. So any kind of inflammation is going to mess you up. So I really kind of channeled in, what was I going to write? What was I going to write? And that was the first thing that came up to me, was like, how can I help people clear their bodies, and thus they can clear their mind, and thus they can clear their spirit? Right? So we have to take out the chatter. And Candida will make you crave stuff that you don't even like. It will make you eat sugar. It'll make you eat bread. It will make you eat Oreos or Twinkies. Let's say Twinkies. Nobody eats Twinkies anymore. But that kind of stuff. And it's almost like a little person talking to you in your head. So those voices in your head, sometimes it's just Candida. Okay. So what I taught was my story of how I ended up learning that I had Candida. I had gone on vacation with my husband. 10 days later, after coming home, put on 20 pounds, went to doctors. And at that point, I was a hairdresser, didn't have medical insurance. I still don't have medical insurance 30 years later, but I've taken care of myself through a natural nutrition line. So to me, it was important to stay there. But it also, what it did was, just like you, James, had your awakening. And like you, Hemali, had been traveling around the room as a little kid, always had that guidedness. And for you too, Veronica, you had your awareness that when I got to this part of my life, it was like, okay, something else is out there. And what I've learned is that the universe, or whatever your higher powers that you believe in, you don't go through something unless you're supposed to learn it. Right. So I learned how to take care of this. I learned that there were other modalities of healing, other modalities of medicine that was out there. And so with my little pitfall, I ended up going to go train with somebody, and thus opened up my life. And, at 31 years old, the professor there says, why don't you go back to school? And I'm like, you can go back to school at 30? And I'm like, oh my God, I was like, someone gave him permission. So at that point, I went back to school and I got my doctorate, and it has changed my life. And I've been so blessed and honored to be able to help so many people on their journey, whether it be emotional, physical, or spiritual, using a natural solution, whether it be eradicating Candida, or helping them with weight loss, or maybe it's pain management. So that's kind of how my journey has been. So I hope that you enjoy my chapter, and if there's any questions, just call me. I'll help you through it.
So this is so perfect, because I'm going to stick with you for this next question that I'm going to ask everybody. But Dr. Eldis, what a great way to kind of slide into why holistic when it comes to healing. And you talked about it a little bit already, but even just in terms of your own personal journey, why has that been important?
Well, being a traditional naturopath, it's all about holistic, right? That's like whatever nature brought us in here. And, listening to all of you here, it's like, I work with plant medicine, and with James, I'm thinking about, Avatar, the movie, right? We were all connected. And I've always had a strong belief system that there was something more than us. And if we think in the terms, as Tesla, kind of said, if you think of energy, and how, the world works that way, creating a healthier person, whether it be emotionally, physically, or spiritually, I think that is where the key is. I think that you need to learn all of those things to become, your authentic self, right? To be that person that you're trying to become. And sometimes you just need to be still and go within. But I really think that, feeding the mind healthy thoughts, feeding the body healthy food, drinking healthy, clean water, right? Breathing, having energy work done, and just staying in the vibration of love. So even if you can, turn on YouTube at 528 megahertz and just listen to that, that's going to vibrate your cells. And if I just have one more minute, when we listen to music like that, it literally vibrates your cells in your body, right? Like this, almost the same thing like a crystal will do. A crystal will vibrate your body. So I've been very honored to work in all of those dimensions. I'm that other, doctor that they come to, right? Not a physician, but, I play one on TV, I guess. But so I've learned that when I work with people, doing that whole mind, body, soul connection is huge.
Yes, I love the way that you're talking about that, especially sound healing and music.
All of it.
Yeah, vibration. So thanks for also talking about why this particular book and really the series now is so amazing is not every one way, even if it is holistic, is for everybody. And I know all of you are probably like me, you like to dabble, you like to learn things, you like to try new things. And that's even just so that you can talk to other people about them, your clients, about what's possible, right? So like, what else is possible for our healing? I love that question. But I just think that putting all of the voices together and giving people opportunities to understand what is possible is just so powerful in and of itself. So Hemali, I want you to answer that same question. How would you answer the question of why holistic? Why is that important?
And I think Dr. L answered everything that I would add into it, right? I'm a physical therapist, so I believe in the body movement. With Reiki, I do energy work. With nutrition, I'm a certified nutrition coach, so I add in the nutrition, especially when you're doing spiritual work. It is so important to eat good food, like with fiber and with something that sustains you so that you can release all that energy that you are releasing from your body especially when you're doing the spiritual work and healing work. So it's and we like to compartmentalize. And I think people are now trying to figure out that we all are connected and our body is connected. Our mind, our body, our soul, everything is connected. And that's why we need to include the whole mind, body, spirit, our thoughts, our words that we use, our body language, the feelings more than anything, the energy that we within us. And I'm just forgetting one thing, but that's okay. I'm sure that one of you guys will cover that. Yeah.
Thank you, Hemali. Yes, beautiful. Veronica, what would you add to this little holistic talk party that we're having here?
Well, one thing that stands out that Hemali spoke about is substantial, right? So I think that the holistic approach does not only teach you about how to listen to your body and how to heal your body through your thoughts, and gaining that that awareness is going to lead you towards having that substantial healing. Because, as you know, Hemali, like with Reiki energy, you can go to see a practitioner and get a nice energy healing done, but you're going to go home and, it's kind of like a massage, like it's going to wear out. But when you educate yourself and you know how to heal yourself, that's substantial. You can get to heal yourself on a cellular level. And that in itself is what really creates change, lasting change.
Yes, with an exclamation point.
Yeah, right. Bold letters. That's what's going to give you that leap of consciousness and to really understanding not only yourself, but life.
Yes, most definitely. Thank you for that, Veronica. James, what do you want to add to this?
We live in a disconnected world. I mean, that's the truth of it, right? And so it's that mindset that we create inside of the holistic process, right? The intention that we put inside of it, and the realization, and everybody's brought this up so far, is that it's about vibration and frequency. So we're constantly looking at the vibration of what it is, even if it's just our thoughts, because even our thoughts have power, right? And it becomes this holistic understanding, then becomes a way of living, a way of being. And so everything that we've talked about creates that platform for how I live. Basically, who said that? How you do something is how you do everything, right? And so where's my mindset? Where am I at? How am I thinking? How am I eating? What am I saying to myself? What am I saying to other people? So this idea of holistic is like every aspect of our life. And I guess that would be the thing that I would add to what everybody else has already said.
I love that as well. Thank you, James. I want to ask you guys this next question. Hemali, I'm going to start with you for this one. So what's so funny is, you know, how we talk about filling our cup first, putting on the air mask on the plane first, right? So that we can serve other people. And I think we all know that if we don't do it, it's going to lead to burnout really, really fast. And I think one of the most important things we teach when we teach self-healing tools is nourishing ourselves. We hope that people aren't having to put out fires, but a lot of the time they're already in pain. They aren't at a place where they feel like in control enough that it's just filling up your cup. But what's funny about the discussion is it's gone from a cup to a pitcher to now it's a bucket. So I'm just telling you guys, it's now the bucket that we are filling, right? We want to fill the bucket and we want to serve from an overflow. So
overflow, yes.
Yes, exactly.
Overflow. Keep it on overflow always.
Yeah,
I
know.
Can't just have a full cup. It's about overflow nowadays, right?
And
that's the wealth consciousness mentality and mindset too. It's having that knowing that you can have that. You can create that for yourself. And when you create that for yourself, you can create that for everybody else that's around you.
Yes. Okay. So I'm going to go to Hemali second since you started us off, Veronica. So I want to know what you do. What are some of the things you do to fill that up?
Yeah, and I talk cup.
Oh,
and,
sorry.
I talk about this filling your cup, but not really emptying the cup, but giving from the overflow. And how do you have a cup or a bucket now? And you take from the overflow. For me, I have to ground myself. So every day I have this daily meditation practice, and I walk in the woods. And so that's my grounding, that like James was talking about inflammation and causing this boundary. And I think for me, the energies that would come in to me would cause inflammation in my body. So that's how I kind of walk in the woods, and talking loving thoughts and kind and being compassionate to myself.
The woods walk is definitely one of top of my list as well. Back to you, Veronica. How do you fill your bucket?
I fill my bucket all day long, literally, with all my thoughts. I keep my mind focused on faith. I keep my mind focused on the good. I keep my mind focused on what I'd like to create in the world. And I also take time out and do a spiritual practice every morning. I meditate, I do yoga. Definitely spending time in nature is a huge one as well. I love going to the beach, taking walks on the beach, hiking, that sort of thing. There's so much you can do. I like to enjoy my life, have fun with everything that I'm creating, express myself in fun ways, and keep my youthfulness, alive within me. And
Listen, when somebody says I do it all day long, we're talking about ninja level awareness moves here. We're talking about somebody who has practiced long enough to master the practice so that their teeter-totter is tipping toward filling most of the day. This is not, I want viewers to understand the practice, because I know some of you are probably like, well, all day long, really, Veronica? How can you do that all day long? So talk to me about that for a minute.
It has definitely been a practice, and it's been an evolution of practices that I've, been doing for many, many years, like you said, like over, a decade. And when you're, honestly, like when I first started, it was very minimal. And then I just started having more and more fun with it and really getting into it, and creating my own when I started creating my own guided meditations and I started creating my own ways of spiritual practices, was really having a lot of fun with it. And I had asked myself at some point about, say, probably about 3 or 4 years ago, I asked myself, is it possible to have that mindset all day? Is it possible for me to be connected to my higher self 24/7? And when I asked that question, I actually ended up going to this global meditation where Deepak Chopra was the host. And Deepak Chopra said that, he said, your whole life could be a meditation. And I really took that to heart, and knowing like that was my answer to the question that I had. That is possible. So when he said that, I said, you know what, I'm going to figure that out, and I'm going to create that for myself. Because once I kind of create that for myself, I can create it for other people. I can help other people create that for themselves too. And so it has been a journey that has been, very unwavering. And I love it. Like, and you can do that for yourself. It is possible. And when you're there, there's no going back because you anchor it in your body.
Yes.
And there is no default to the subconscious mind because you're there, you're aware, and you know what's you and what's not you.
There's no going back once you're on that path, is there? James, I saw your hand. Did you want to add something, or are we past that?
Well, we kind of passed that, but it still is in the same mode though, because we're talking about where is my mind at? So when we're talking about that, is like, because that our minds will run off. And I used to hear this saying that, where are you? Oh, I'm in the Bahamas. And so it's this place of going, and the Buddhists talk about that constant mindfulness. Where am I? What am I thinking? How is that impacting everything? And a little bit before that, what you were talking about, I think to fill the cup is this place that self-care is probably the most important thing right now. And so, everything that you've done with the Ultimate Guide and the books and everything else like that is about this understanding is that we have to take self-care into our own hands. And our system that we've created, we gave responsibility of our self-care to someone else. And we can't sustain ourselves that way anymore. And so I think that's what is so important inside of all of this, is that understanding that self-care is my responsibility because this is my body and this is my life.
Yeah, for sure. So why don't you tell us one of the ways you fill up?
Oh, my goodness. What fills me up? People.
Oh, yes.
It's the connection to everybody, is to watch what happens and the transformation that I watch people go through. But, I love sitting in my backyard. I mean, we live in a place where I can literally walk outside and I can see 50 miles in any direction. And so that connection to nature, and I'm a nature boy anyway, growing up in Hawaii and being next to the ocean. That obviously I don't have the ocean living in Sedona, yet there's this place of having that deep connection. And from a standpoint of being an indigenous healer, it is all about that connection. So it's about finding that, maintaining that, and holding that for myself, and then teaching other people how to do that as well.
I love it. Love Sedona as well. Dr. L, how about you? Talk to us about how you fill your bucket.
Fill my bucket?
Yeah.
Fire hose, it's like sprinkler. A couple things. So all the things you guys say is the same thing. Like I go, walk in nature, call that forest bathing. I'm the north now, right?
Yes.
I use a ton of essential oils. I do. So I ground myself with specific ones. I use some to raise my consciousness. I use other ones to increase the wellness of my health. I like to diffuse them all over the house, but just like James, I love people. I love being able to serve and see them expand. But I also have the most amazing 4.5-year-old grandson. And he loves to dress up like Hulk, right? And then when my husband gets home, my husband has to be Hulk and the little one has to be Thor. And Thor runs around with his little hammer and beats the crap out of my husband saying, Banna, come out, Banna, come out. So that fills me up on Wednesdays. So whenever I have him that kind of day, I just kind of, I have a magnet of him on my fridge, and he's all dressed up in his Thor costume, and he's like got the hammer over his head yelling, "Hammer!" And I'm like, that just fills my cup, knowing that there's the joy of a child, right? That innocence of a child, and their laughter just cracks me up. And, we've all lived stressful lives. We've all been through our, dark day of the soul, if you will, and learned. And, coming on the other side, it's just like, stop and smell the roses, right? Look at how beautiful the world is, and take that moment, take a breath, breathe, get away from the computer, go outside in your bare feet, run through the sprinkler, except not in New England because it's snowing right now. Okay. But things like that. So just find joy. And then, you know what? Pass it forward. Pass it forward.
Yes, definitely. I love that.
If I could just add really quick, filling your bucket is also about learning how to receive.
Yes.
Yes. That's something that we don't really get taught how to do. So the part of filling the bucket is the receive.
And I'm going to add to that, what else is possible?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So you guys, I want to ask you this one last question, going around to everybody at this point. And, we've had a tough year. People have struggled more. They had their struggles before this past year with COVID, and we just got dumped on. And a lot of people are really at their ability to cope. They're on the edge of that ability. And I wanted to know what you all would offer to our listeners, just a word of support, and maybe thinking of this as what is a very easy entry point if they're having a really crappy day. I know, one of my answers would be just go ahead and connect with the breath. Yes, it's easily accessible. You can take a deep breath. You can just clear your mind and breathe and connect with the literal physical sensation of the breath. But that's just one easy entry point. Hemali, I'm going to start with you for this one. What would you offer?
I think personally, I feel that just pause. I think that's very important too when you're overwhelmed, when you're lots going on in your mind and the thoughts and everything is running and you're stressed out. Just pause for a moment and step back from the situation, especially when you're overwhelmed and everything. I really leave everything and I just go for a walk. So you're breathing in that fresh air and you are just soaking in that energy from the plants and trees and everything. And sometimes I just sit near the stream or the water body and just listen to the birds and everything. And you come back, I'm telling you, everything that is not necessary will fall away, and then you will focus and have clarity.
Awesome, Hemali, thank you. Dr. L, I'm going back to you. You were talking about it as you answered that last question. What would be another easy entry point for people?
Well, agreeing, breathing, that's a huge piece. Take a breath, that will stop you in there, or hold your breath for a minute, that'll stop you. And then breathe.
I want to ask you about that for a second, because in the breathwork realm, I've found that particularly, right? So talk to me more about the breath hold. What is it about that?
Well, I do a technique and I call it 1-1-1. And basically you breathe in, you hold it, and then you say one, and blow some out. Relax a little, say one again, relax one again, and then till all that breath is completely out of the body. It will stop you, right? Because it's almost like a shock. Your fight or flight jumps in, and then you'll relax. It forces you to breathe and relax, which is huge. And sometimes that's just enough. So I love doing a breath work for that. And like I said, I've caught myself many a time, like one. Is there more in there till there's no breath left, right? And that has created change. Another thing that I invite people to do is to clap. Clapping is simple, right? Anybody can do it. And that literally changes your vibration. If you're really pissed, but if you're happy, you clap. But I mean, just even that frequency changes the system, or even just doing one.
I
Those are
love
some ways.
those.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone has talked about clapping yet. And I was just about to ask you, what is it about that? So it's a vibration change.
It's a vibration change. It changes everything within your frequency. Like I said, little kids love to clap, right? Why? Because it just makes them happy, but it changes that vibration. It literally will shake you out of a negative vibration.
Yeah.
Same thing like if you were to play like really hardcore music. The reason why that feels so good is because it shakes you out of your stuff. And then you can go, so go play some AC/DC for a while and then, listen to something nice, like the birds, like the real birds, not the music, the birds.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
James, how about you? What's another easy entry point for people onto this healing path?
You have to realize that your mind is momentum. And so everything that everybody's talked about is about interrupting that momentum, right? So breath interrupts momentum, clapping interrupts momentum, going for a walk interrupts that momentum, because it is right, because what you're wanting to change, it's hard to jump off a train that's moving. So you have to slow the momentum down to be able to shift gears, right? And I think that vibration, if I was going to say something, I would put in here, this is probably the perfect place for healing sound.
Yes.
And healing music to step in, because if you have a go-to place, I'm fortunate. I'm married to an amazing musician who does healing music, and so we always have that in our house, and so music definitely is part of that interruption, is part of that coming back in or coming back into presence.
Yep.
I would choose music. I have chosen it over the past year over and over again, and it depends on my mood. Sometimes I'll pick the sound healing vibrations, and other times I will pick the EDM and blast it through the house and jump around and move my body too. That's part of it for me, right? Just moving that vibration. Veronica, how about you? Help us out with another easy entry point.
Well, a couple of things. First, I want to say, everybody has moments, and I think it's important to feel that moment, to be present with it. I think it's really important, because when we push feelings and emotions away, that's when they get stuck in our body. So, if something happens and you're just like in that moment, just like be with it and feel it. Just give yourself permission. You know what? It's okay. I'm having a human moment, and that's okay. I'm going to allow myself to feel this and let it go when you can, and that's a practice. It's a practice. I remember when I first started practicing that, it would take me a long time. and then now with practice, and you can just, it gets so much easier. And another thing I like to mention is smile. Just smile. When you wake up in the morning, you look in the mirror, smile, and tell yourself you're going to have a great day. Set yourself up for success. And no matter what happens, that you're going to be blessed with whatever comes to you, with whatever, everything happens for a reason. And, you can trust that. And a lot of times it is, some stuff comes up just to bring up some energy that's within you to be released. It really does, when certain situations come up and certain experiences come about, it's because there's something in your body that is ready to be released. So we're like tying up and not allow it to like move through our body, then it's going to stay there, and it's going to happen again and again and again. But if we like stay with that energy of that emotion and allow it to just kind of flow through our body, it'll actually not only help you heal your body, it'll actually help you clear your mind, and it'll actually like even give you some insight sometimes, like it'll bring up like the reasons why that happened, like why did that situation happen, why did that, whatever it was occur, like, and you learn something about yourself.
Yes, thank you, Veronica. After 3 decades or more of practicing healing in different kinds of forms, for me, it was physical therapy as a profession, but moving into holistic forms of it, like we've been talking about today pretty early on, I learned that the most important thing is what Veronica was talking about, and that is to honor the feeling fully. And then with the awareness, you have a choice not to be stuck there. If you so choose, you can move and you can do something different. But the avoidance practices that we're in, the stuffing, the avoidance, the ignoring, the things we've been taught also not to feel, are not serving that journey, right? And so I appreciate what you said about that, to fully feel it and then choose based on the awareness that you're practicing what's going to be the best for you at that point, and then smile. You guys, thank you so much. Thank you so much for what you do in the world and for being here today to share it with everybody. You guys are badass.
Hey, thanks for inviting us.
Yes, thank you so much.
So viewers know that the powerhouses here that you're listening to are in this beautiful new book, The Ultimate Guide to Self-Healing, Volume 4. And we launch on March 3rd. So make sure to join us at 10 o'clock Eastern on the Brave Badass Healers Facebook page. We're going to have some pretty cool giveaways that day for launch. And 5% of the proceeds of all of the paperbacks sold that day will go to help out 2 of the nonprofits that I love to support, and happen to be 2 of the authors that we have in our book. Roots Africa, founded by Cedric Mafor, and The Inkwell was founded by Miss Cayenne Thomas. So you'll find some more information down in the show notes about those amazing organizations. And of course, if you're listening to this interview after March 3rd of 21, well, the book is ready and you should go buy it on Amazon. So again, you guys, thank you so much for being here. I usually close out the show with one of my favorite ever big ass juicy questions. And here it is. What if there's something you haven't learned yet about healing that could change everything? It is time to be brave. See you next time, you guys.
Bye, everybody.
Take care. Thank you.
Love what you heard today. Don't forget to drop down and hit that subscribe button, you guys, and then join me over at bravehealer.com for just a little bit more healing badassery. Have a great one.